Freddie Mercury saw a crying girl at Heathrow. What he did next became her greatest memory. November 23rd, 1985, Heathrow Airport, Gate 47. Nobody recognized the man in the oversized coat and sunglasses, sitting alone in the corner. Nobody knew they were feet away from Freddie Mercury, hiding from fame for 40 precious minutes of anonymity. Then he saw her, a 19-year-old girl, clutching a Queen concert ticket in a bag of ashes, crying like her world had ended. Because it had. Her boyfriend Daniel died 4 days ago. The concert ticket was from 2 weeks earlier, the Wembley show Daniel never got to attend because leukemia killed him first. Freddie walked over and sat down beside her. What he did in the next 40 minutes gave her a reason to keep living. And 30 years later, she revealed why that purple scarf he gave her became her most treasured possession. He had come to Heathrow 3 hours early, not for the time but for the anonymity. Garden Lodge had become a prison, photographers camped outside constantly, fans rang the doorbell at all hours. Even his closest friends had started treating him like a fragile artifact rather than a living, breathing human being who desperately needed normalcy. So Freddie had done something he almost never did anymore. He had driven himself to the airport without security or assistance, purchased a ticket under a false name, and settled into Gate 47 with profound relief at being, for just a few hours, nobody special. That's when he noticed her. She was sitting 4 seats away, clutching a small canvas bag against her chest and a concert ticket stub. She couldn't have been more than 19, with tangled brown hair and eyes that held the kind of emptiness Freddie recognized from people who had lost everything that mattered. The girl was crying silently, tears streaming without any attempt to hide them. Her hands shook as she stared at what appeared to be a Queen concert ticket from 2 weeks earlier, the Wembley Stadium show. Every few minutes, she would look at the departure board with an expression that mixed desperate determination with profound grief. Freddie tried to look away. This wasn't his business. He had 40 minutes of precious anonymity before he had to transform back into Freddie Mercury. But something about her silent crying wouldn't let him turn away. Something about the way she clutched that concert ticket like it was both precious and painful. He stood up and sat down beside her. "Terrible coffee in this terminal, isn't it?" Freddie said softly. "I've been coming through Heathrow for 15 years and it gets worse every time." The girl looked up with red, swollen eyes, confused by this stranger's casual conversation. Then something shifted in her expression. Recognition of simple human kindness in a moment when she felt completely alone. "I haven't tried the coffee," she whispered. "I haven't had anything since yesterday morning." Freddie's heart constricted. "Would you like me to get you something? A sandwich, perhaps? Some tea?" She shook her head, clutching her bag and the concert ticket tighter. "I don't have any money. I spent everything on this ticket to Amsterdam." Fresh tears streamed down her face. Fulfilling a promise to someone who isn't here anymore to see it. Those last words made Freddie pause. This wasn't ordinary heartbreak or travel stress. This was grief, deep and raw and overwhelming. "What's your name, darling?" Freddie asked gently. "Catherine, Katie. Everyone calls me Katie." She looked at him more carefully. "You're being very kind to a stranger. Most people just look away when someone's crying." "Most people are cowards," Freddie said with a slight smile. "They're afraid that acknowledging pain might contaminate them. But I've learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply sit with someone who's suffering and let them know they're not alone." Katie's face crumpled and she began crying harder, but with a different quality, now a relief at being seen by another human being after feeling invisible. "Where are you flying to, Katie?" Freddie asked when her tears subsided. "Amsterdam," she whispered. "It was supposed to be our trip. Mine and Daniel's. We had it all planned for months. He was so excited about seeing Amsterdam together, visiting the museums, walking by the canals. But then, everything changed." Freddie's stomach tightened. "What happened to Daniel?" Katie took a shuddering breath and held up the concert ticket. "This is from the Queen concert at Wembley 2 weeks ago. November 9th, Daniel and I had tickets together. We'd been planning to go for 6 months. He loved Queen so much. He knew every lyric to every song. He used to sing Somebody to Love to me when I was having a bad day." She wiped her eyes roughly, but Daniel got sick, leukemia. They diagnosed him in August, just 3 months ago. The doctors said he had time, that the treatment would work, that we'd beat it together. We kept planning our future Amsterdam, then Paris, then maybe getting married next year. He kept saying, "When I'm better, Katie. When I'm better, we'll do everything." Freddie felt his throat tighten. He knew about illness. He knew about time running out faster than anyone expected. 2 days before the Queen concert, Daniel collapsed. Katie continued, her voice breaking. The leukemia had progressed faster than the doctors predicted. He was hospitalized immediately. I wanted to cancel the concert, stay with him, but Daniel insisted I go. He made me promise I'd go to Wembley, that I'd sing every song for both of us, that I'd remember how much he loved that music. She looked down at the ticket stub, touching it gently. So I went. I stood in that stadium with 72,000 people, and I sang every word, and I cried through the entire show because Daniel should have been standing next to me. He should have been there experiencing something he dreamed about his whole life. Freddie's hands clenched. He remembered that November 9th show. He remembered performing Somebody to Love and scanning the crowd, seeing thousands of faces singing along. Katie had been there singing for someone who couldn't be. Daniel died 4 days ago, Katie whispered. November 19th, he was 21 years old. We'd been together for 3 years and he was my entire world. Before he died, he made me promise something. He made me promise I'd still go to Amsterdam, that I'd live the life we'd planned even though he wouldn't be there to share it. She held up her canvas bag. This has his ashes. I'm taking him to Amsterdam like we planned. I'm going to scatter them by the canals he wanted to see. I'm going to visit every museum we researched together. I'm fulfilling every dream we had, except I'm doing it alone, and it feels impossible. Freddie reached out slowly and gently placed his hand over Katie's trembling fingers. You're honoring someone you loved by keeping promises to them. That's not impossible. That's extraordinary courage. Katie's eyes met his, swimming with tears. But what's the point? Daniel was the only person who ever really saw me. My parents think I should move on already. My friends say I'm too young to be this devastated over a boyfriend. Nobody understands that Daniel wasn't just my boyfriend. He was my best friend, my future, my reason for believing in beautiful things. They're wrong, Freddie said quietly, his voice carrying an intensity that made Katie focus completely on him. Grief doesn't have a timeline. Love doesn't diminish just because someone dies. And honoring a promise to someone you lost isn't pathetic or dramatic. It's one of the most beautiful things a human being can do. Katie looked at him more carefully now, really seeing him for the first time beneath the disguise. Something about his voice, the distinctive quality that millions of people would recognize instantly. Who are you? She asked slowly. Freddie removed his sunglasses, revealing his face. For a moment, Katie didn't react. Then recognition dawned and her eyes widened with absolute shock. You're Freddie Mercury, she whispered. From Queen. I just saw you perform. Daniel and I, we were there. We sang every song. You were Daniel's hero. Freddie smiled gently. Then I'm honored to have been part of something meaningful to both of you. Katie's hands started shaking more violently. Daniel would have died if he knew I was sitting here talking to Freddie Mercury. He used to say you had the greatest voice in rock history. He'd play Bohemian Rhapsody on repeat and try to hit all the high notes. He never could, but he tried every single time. Freddie felt tears prickling his own eyes. What was Daniel's favorite Queen song? Who Wants to Live Forever? Katie said immediately. From the Highlander soundtrack. He said it was the most beautiful song ever written about loving someone so much that losing them would make time meaningless. Freddie closed his eyes briefly. Of all the songs, of course it would be that one. Katie, he said carefully, I need to tell you something about that song. I wrote it thinking about impermanence, about how the most beautiful things in life are also the most fragile. But what I've learned is that love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms. It becomes memory and honor and the way you carry them forward into every experience you have afterward. He looked at her concert ticket, then at the canvas bag holding Daniel's ashes. You're taking him to Amsterdam. You're singing the songs he loved. You're living the dreams you shared. That means Daniel isn't really gone. He's present in every tree, every choice you make to honor what you had together. Katie was crying openly now, but it hurt so much. Every day I wake up and remember he's gone and it feels like I can't breathe. How do I keep living when the person who made life worth living isn't here anymore? You live because he wanted you to, Freddie replied. You live because every beautiful thing you experience is a gift you can give to his memory. You live because love doesn't require the other person to be physically present. It requires you to keep feeling it, even when it hurts. He stood up slowly. Wait here for just a moment. Don't move. Freddie walked quickly to the nearest shop, returning 5 minutes later with 2 cups of tea and 2 sandwiches. He sat back down next to Katie and handed her one of each. Eat something, he instructed gently. Daniel wouldn't want you to arrive in Amsterdam having starved yourself. Katie took the sandwich with trembling hands and began eating mechanically. The food seemed to ground her somehow, bringing her back into her body and the present moment. I'm going to give you something, Freddie said, reaching into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small notebook and pen, writing something carefully. This is the address of a recording studio I work at in Munich. And this, he wrote another address, is a small cafe in Amsterdam that I love. It's quiet, overlooks a canal, and serves the best apple tart in the city. He tore out the page and handed it to Katie. When you're in Amsterdam, go to this cafe, sit by the window, order the apple tart, and tell Daniel's memory about everything you are seeing. Talk to him out loud if you want. The Dutch are very tolerant of eccentric behavior. Let him experience Amsterdam through you. Katie stared at the paper, tears streaming down her face. And when you get back to London, Freddie continued, if you ever need someone who understands grief, someone who knows what it's like to lose people you love too young, write to me at the Munich address. I can't promise I'll always be there, but I promise someone in my circle will make sure you're not alone. He pulled something else from his pocket, a silk scarf in deep purple, one he'd worn during performances. Take this. It's from the tour. When you scatter Daniel's ashes in Amsterdam, wrap this around the urn. Let him travel with something that connected to the music he loved. Katie couldn't speak. She just held the scarf and the paper, crying so hard her shoulders shook. The announcement came over the loudspeaker. Flight 447 to Amsterdam was beginning boarding. You're going to get on that plane, Freddie said gently. You're going to go to Amsterdam and fulfill every promise you made to Daniel. You're going to scatter his ashes by the canals and visit the museums and eat the apple tart. And you're going to survive this grief because he loved you enough to want you to live fully, even without him. Katie stood up slowly, clutching the scarf and the paper like lifelines. Why are you doing this for me? You don't know me at all. Because I saw you holding that concert ticket, Freddie replied. Because I know what it means to love music so deeply that it becomes part of your identity. Because Daniel loved Queen and you loved Daniel, and somehow that creates a connection that matters. He stood and embraced Katie gently. Go to Amsterdam, darling. Live the dreams you shared. And know that somewhere in the world, Freddie Mercury is thinking about a brave young woman who honored love by refusing to let death steal the future. Katie pulled back, looking at him with wonder through her tears. I'll never forget this. When I'm old and telling my grandchildren about the time I met Freddie Mercury at an airport, they'll never believe it actually happened. Then keep the scarf as proof, Freddie smiled. And tell them that Freddie Mercury said grief is just love with nowhere to go. So you take that love to Amsterdam and everywhere else you go. You make it mean something. Katie walked towards the boarding gate, turning back once to look at Freddie. He waved and she waved back, holding the purple scarf against her heart. Freddie watched her board the plane, then sat back down in his corner seat, putting his sunglasses back on. 40 minutes of anonymity had become 40 minutes of connection. He had given away his scarf and his privacy and his time, and somehow he felt less empty than he had in months. Katie went to Amsterdam. She scattered Daniel's ashes by the Prinsengracht Canal at sunset, wrapped in Freddie Mercury's purple scarf. She visited every museum they'd researched together. She ate apple tart at the cafe Freddie had recommended and talked to Daniel's memory about everything she saw. And slowly, over months and years, the grief transformed from something that crushed her into something that connected her to the love she'd experienced. She kept her promise to Daniel. She lived fully, loved again eventually, and never forgot the boy who'd made her believe in beautiful things. She also kept Freddie's scarf for the rest of her life. It became her most treasured possession, not because it belonged to a famous rock star, but because it represented the moment when a stranger saw her pain and responded with extraordinary kindness. 30 years later, when BBC was producing a documentary about Freddie Mercury's private acts of generosity, Katie came forward with her story. She was 49 years old, a grief counselor who specialized in helping young people process loss, and she brought the purple scarf carefully preserved in a protective case. November 23rd, 1985. Changed my life, Katie told the documentary filmmaker. Not because I met someone famous, but because Freddie Mercury saw a devastated 19-year-old girl and chose to care. He gave me permission to grieve, encouragement to honor my promises, and hope that life could still have meaning even after losing everything that mattered. She touched the scarf gently. Daniel died loving Queen's music. Freddie gave Daniel's memory a place in my journey to Amsterdam. That gift, knowing that Daniel's hero cared about our love story, sustained me through the darkest year of my life. The documentary showed Katie's work as a grief counselor, how she'd built her career around helping others survive devastating loss. Everything I do professionally comes from what Freddie taught me in 40 minutes at Heathrow. That grief is love with nowhere to go. That honoring the dead means living fully. That connection between strangers can be as meaningful as any relationship. When Freddie Mercury died in 1991, Katie attended the memorial service at Wembley Stadium, wearing the purple scarf and carrying a photograph of Daniel. She sang Who Wants to Live Forever with 72,000 other people, crying for both men who had shaped her understanding of love and loss.